You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom!
That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Chris Stone in the house.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man making me invisible on the left side of your screen, the one, the only, straight out of Marietta, Georgia, standing 5'10" tall. Not really. Dan,
That's
the
exactly,
man, Jordan.
That's exactly my. Oh, that's awesome. You know, speaking of applause, so I have become just obsessed with time management.
Yeah.
It's just like I just totally realize that your time is all that you have. And when you're taking somebody's time, you're literally taking their life away. It's something that it never comes back. And I had a recent kind of awful situation that I actually really am not going to get into that made me realize that.
You can't talk about an awful situation and say you're not going to get into it.
Just imagine waking up at 2:30 in the morning to go to the bathroom and see your girlfriend in the fetal position, not responsive, and then that's it. You know, how much would you give for extra time? 29 years old. I mean, that's your whole life is ahead of you. Just done. See you later, potato. And so. Anyway, so it wasn't just that, but it just lets you know time is all you got. And then when it's gone, it's just gone. And so in that, I started setting timers for everything. And so like, if I set like a 2-hour time block of a particular focus or something I'm going to do, man, the phone goes away and the emails go away. There's like major time suckers from your life.
Oh yeah.
And actually make me big on this one because this is a big one. So there's major time suckers of your life. And when you realize when you could avoid those big time suckers, and there's only like 4 big ones, one of them is email. The other one is your phone, obviously. And email is terrible because, it takes you to the internet. And you just start flipping around, and next thing you know, it's an hour later. And one of the biggest ones, however, is people. People just like stop in, and if somebody stops in, it's not like it's just their little 2-minute conversation. It's their 2-minute conversation and then 20 minutes to get back into the zone. That's time you'll never get back again. And the easy way to do it is to kind of set guardrails and alarms for yourself. And so I set this alarm for myself for everything that I do, but you get to pick like the sound that you want it to be. So at first I had like a rooster, most annoying thing on the planet. I mean, it's just crazy. And it just keeps on going. It's like, it's annoying even for me. But if there's other people in the house, it'll drive them crazy. But then I changed it to the perfect thing, Chris Stone. And this is exactly what I would like. Okay. I changed it to applause. So like my alarm when it goes off is applause. And it's a big one, like a Madison Square Garden one.
Beautiful.
It was like,
you wake up literally living the dream every day.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Being on stage.
You know what? And dreams really do come true. Because for years, I've been trying to cajole our next guest to come on. And it's taken me, he was actually one of our first guests when we first got started, which is like 2.5 years ago, maybe even more. I don't know how long ago we got started with it, but we didn't even know what we were doing. We were just fooling around here.
Well, you didn't, but.
Yes. And it was he was so embarrassed that he said, I'll never get back on that show again. So finally, after all these years, I found the guy, because if there's anybody in the world that you're going to meet that is he's like perfect at saying no. He's the exact person we want on Dan Jordan Live. So all the salespeople out there, knowing that you have to deal with somebody who actually enjoys saying no, please welcome my good friend, Tom Nixon. You see that? That's right.
So speaking of major time suckers, I'm never going to get this time back, am I?
Yeah. Oh, listen. See, by the way,
This is value for value, Tom.
Yeah,
You'll wish this show went on forever after.
Yes,
being on.
that's what it is. But Tom Nixon.
On my deathbed.
Tom Nixon, Christone, you may or may not know this, but he's been around since like Moses, and he was in the marketing business back when it was like real print, when cut and paste on your document literally meant cutting and pasting with glue. Like that's where he got started from. Yeah. But with that, and I want to ask you this, Tom, because I'm actually really interested in this. With all the changes that have happened technologically, moving from the analog to digital, I don't know if analog was the right word, but what are the major differences you see in your 40-year career and the things that stayed the same?
Well, I consider myself to be in the communication business. Communication in its most basic form, connecting with another person and having something meaningful going back and forth between them, that's pretty much stayed the same. The tools you use are incredibly different, and not to be overly cynical, but I started as a graphic designer, and graphic design was something that it was a craft. I worked at it for 35 years. I got very, very good at what I did. Everybody is a graphic designer now with the online programs that you can design something. And but they basically, one of the nice things about starting out in cut and paste and in that world is you have to work so hard to create something. The actual labor involved in putting together a project is so incredible that you learn your lessons really, really well. Today, you can just design something. You can go online into one of the online programs and design something, but you have no idea what it takes to communicate, what it takes to create a page or a document or a screen that connects with people want to look at. For example, on the page, on a printed page years ago, and even today, there's what I always called a hierarchy of information. So there is a big message, then there's a sub-message, then there's a sub-message, then there's a bunch of text, then there's maybe a call to action. It's a hierarchy, and you want your audience or whoever's reading it to basically follow this along as they're looking at it. You want their eyes to go in at a certain place, see the main thing you want them to see, and then move through the page in a fairly organized way. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but well, today, very few people understand those concepts, and therefore you look at pages, even pages in major publications that are designed, there's no concept of how somebody should look at the page or read the page or get information from the page. And the same goes online. So
that's basic copywriting.
Well, it's design. It's design. Yeah.
So what's when you used to do this for clients, what was the main product you were creating?
Well, it used to be a brochure or a newsletter.
Okay, and those are done online now. So
it ended up on a printing press. It ended up on a printing press, and now it's Well, they're not even done anymore. People don't do brochures and they don't do newsletters. They do web pages, and most of my work today involves PowerPoint, that wonderful program that everybody loves so much.
PowerPoint. Now,
Yeah.
isn't Canva kind of overwhelming PowerPoint at this point?
Well, it certainly is stripping away the bottom feeders. So, but there's, the people that I work for want to actually communicate with their audience, and PowerPoint is just the tool. It's not the end. So.
Okay, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. The message is what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So we deal with a lot of speakers on this show too. A lot of people. In fact, Chris Stone is going to be a speaker at a couple of major events that are happening next year. Chris Stone, what are they?
Podfest in January, but this week I'm doing something with Agora Pulse on live shopping, and I think it's called the Marketing Rockstar Summit for Agora Pulse. So yeah.
So when you do those speaking engagements, are they more of you're sharing ideas, or is it a Q&A type of thing?
The Agora Pulse thing will be a panel, and there's 3 other folks, and the questions are somewhat, they're already out there, so we kind of know what to expect, right? And so, but it is going to be live, virtual thing. So, and I'll be on panels and speaking as well on at Podfest. So, yeah, and Tom, I loved what you talked initially about when you're talking about design work, and I'm equating it to what I have done over the years with editing sound, whether it's being in bands, doing it for bands, or podcasting.
I imagine you see a lot of wannabes really butchering things up these days.
Of course, absolutely, yeah. And now there's artificial intelligence where it's just like everyone thinks it's this huge, massive, easy button, and it's dehumanizing a lot. And I think to your earlier point, what's lost, I believe, in these are wonderful tools. Canva was mentioned. There's other ones that are great tools if you don't have design skills, but you can work on the things that you're passionate about, which may be speaking, it may be something else. And then, you have these graphic designers that have created these templates already that are already just gorgeous. You just kind of have to, put your own sort of stamp in it. And it's great. But what's lost, I think, is that if you are someone that has a passion for doing something like design or audio editing and things, there's so much that I've learned over the course of my 28-year career in the music business. There's so much that you learn by doing the actual cutting and pasting. You heard these stories about these guys, George Martin in the studio taking the tape for the Beatles and like snipping it and reversing it and going back with tape and going backwards and altering things like that. Now there's a plugin that's free that you can just go, this is the Beatles plugin that George Martin used, and you can sound just like it. And
it's up until like the last movie or two, Steven Spielberg, the person who edited his films, did them by cutting and taping together 35 millimeter or 70 millimeter film.
Wow.
So I mean there's a, and I don't know what it is. There's a feel to it. There's a physical connection. I mean, everything I do pretty much is online now. But I still do initial sketches on a pad and with a pencil and just play around with things like that. But it's
you sound like you long for the old days.
No, I don't. Actually, I don't. Okay. No, it's made the Adobe has made my life 1,000 times easier. But if I did not have that background, I think I would have lost something. And I see that in a lot of newer designers. I see that they don't have that. And some of them are very good. Many of them have a very little idea of how to create, how to build colors and how to use balance and how to do the things that I learned because I had to learn because all right, here's the story. My first project, I offered to do a brochure for a conference. It was a big brochure. It was like 10 panels. It folded. And they said, do you know anybody that can do this? I was a photographer at the time, not making any money. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I got a big layout board, which was a big, heavy duty paste up board. And I put it on my easel, and I got a T-square, and I got a razor blade, and I got typeset that cost at that time, you get a galley of type, it cost you $100 for a couple of feet of type. And if you didn't spec it right, if you didn't tell them how much space to allow in between lines, the leading, which is called the leading, if you didn't spec it right, then you got to cut it all apart and spread it all out. Well, I didn't spec it right. So I had, by the time I was done with this project, I had to imagine this like 3 foot or 4 foot wide board by about maybe 18 inches. It had thousands of pieces of paper on it, all positioned precisely. That I had, whenever I decided I needed more room, I had to move everything up. I had to pull it up, and oh my God, it was a nightmare. But believe me, you learn some lessons when you do that. But that the world is not that way anymore, and people are going to design things the way they design them. As much as I appreciate that world that used to exist, it's not there anymore, and it's not going to be there anymore. So, if I want to be a cranky old man, that's a good way to do it. But otherwise, just live with it.
Well, but you've learned the new stuff, and you're taking it on.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. You have to keep on doing that. So what? And I was actually just on the phone with somebody a little earlier about that. About the same thing. What the person sells, let's say digital marketing or branding or something like that. All the technical stuff of building a website and positioning everything and getting a squeeze page or a landing page and a form and putting it all together and get your automations and your flows. Man, you can get that done on Fiverr for $50. Someone can put it all together. What people are paying you for and paying this person for is for their brain. It's for the stuff of making all those things work and make everything go through. And so it's not the technical stuff. It's just the strategic stuff that you need to get paid for. And that's what you can charge for. So you do it not only in writing and in copywriting and design, but also you help speakers on the stage.
Yeah.
Now,
well, it reminds me of that old story of the factory that had to stop production because a machine broke, and they called in the repairman, and the repairman came in and they said, how much is it going to, or they said, well, we have no idea how to fix this. And he reached around behind the machine and pressed a button, and it started working again. And he charged them $100,000. And they said, well, it only took you 2 minutes. He said, it's taken me my entire life to learn that was the button to push.
Yeah, that's the old Picasso thing too. When he would do that. But I fixed my garage door. Remember that guy? I told you about that last time. Yeah, I fixed the garage. I'm telling you, nothing makes you feel better than fixing something that so you don't have to pay somebody. I used to train a bunch of plumbers. I had a plumbing company as a client, and this was like before any kind of video and stuff was going. So they were like the first people to do this. And I asked them, I said, what's your number one thing that people call you for? And they said, without a doubt, hands down, it was at that time a stuffed disposal. The disposal stopped working or what have you. And they hated doing them because they're really easy to fix, but they're so easy to fix that everybody got mad and they didn't want to pay because they had to pay at that time the $70 trip charge. Right. And they would go in there and basically take the tool that is connected to the disposal. So you don't have to bring any tools. You walk in there, you take the tool off the disposal, and you put it in and you spin it around, and it loosens everything up, and it's done. And they say $75. And so people were like, you were here for 2 minutes and all that stuff. And so it was actually losing them customers. For doing that, because then they'd try to upsell them and all that stuff. It was terrible. And the answer to it was make a video. And they started a YouTube. They made one video showing people how to do this, and they put that on their website. And if somebody called for that thing, watch this video, take care of it yourself. Invariably, the people watched the video and then called them for something else.
Right. Builds trust. Listen, we're not going to waste your money. This is how you do it yourself if you want to do it. Now, if you want to pay us this,
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have talked out of doing business cards.
Yeah.
People, oh, I'm starting a new business. I'm taking coffee cups, moving them from here to here. It's a great business. Nobody else does it. It's going to make $1 million. And they say, I need a business card. And I use Dan Jordan's line when I talk to people like that. I say, what you need is customers. Get customers. That's what you need.
Look at that. He used your
And
line.
I said, if I were to create a business card for you, I'd charge you $1,000. You want to pay that much? They go, oh, no. I says, well, then go get a customer.
Do you think June Klein has business cards?
Yeah, that's.
I designed a brochure for June Klein.
June Klein's awesome.
Yeah.
Did she get any customers from it?
Oh, she was doing a live show and she filled the place up.
Look at that. You see,
and she got Jeannie Robertson, who is one of the greatest humorous speakers in the history of public speaking, to go, oh my God, look at that. That's fantastic. So that's my little
Jeannie Roberts.
claim to
God, there's some old names in the speaking world. Hey, so this is something that maybe you could help the younger salespeople that are out there right now. Not that you're excessively old, but you've been in the business world for a long time, and you've had salespeople call on you. You've experienced a lot of salespeople. You've done it all. And it's tough when you get a little older not to get cynical about things. I mean, it's a battle, especially for men, by the way. Men generally get more cynical than women. Women may just start out that way.
Careful, Dan. Careful.
Okay.
I got the eject button right here, Tom.
Okay.
In case we start to get canceled.
Was there a question in there someplace or what?
Yeah, but I'm going to go off on a tangent right now. So I was saying
a tangent.
I was saying goodbye to Chai. Every once in a while, my wife is awake when I leave. Not often, but sometimes I could see the light. I sneak out.
She tries not to be.
The bedroom. Well, it's like 3:30 in the morning, and so. But when I leave at 5 or 5:30, sometimes she's awake and I see the light on, and so. This one day last week she was, and so I went there, to kiss her goodbye and say, have a nice day, whatever. And of course she's on the bed, and so I'm leaning over her, and so I'm going out to kiss her, and she says, "You have hair in your nose." It's like, talk about spoiling the moment. That's exactly what I got to deal with. I mean, I'm just there just to say
she's looking out.
How to deal with the hair in the nose.
Dan, do me a favor. Your microphone is sliding up against your it's we're losing both of our viewers right now if they continue to hear.
If you raise your camera up on your laptop, you won't be able to see the hair in your nose.
Yeah, I know, but
pro tip.
Her. Okay. The point is,
we're still got the mic issue, Dan. It's still rubbing against your collar. So.
Was it doing
we want to make sure that our audio is good. Well,
I'll just do this. How's this?
Yeah, well, it's a little creepy, but it'll work for an audio perspective. We definitely can see the nose hairs when you do that.
Here's okay. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything.
All right. So, how does somebody, a salesperson, break through a cynical elderly man who's seen it all and knows it all? Because what happens is people.
I'm really offended that you're asking me this question.
I tried to soften it up as much as possible.
It was pretty obvious. Okay. Why you were asking me of all people?
Well, no. It's not. I should have. Men get cynical, and men feel that other people are trying to. People think that salespeople, who may be at the point where they're just trying to give a good product and a good service and in form of somebody new, Canva as opposed to something else. As an example, PowerPoint as opposed to something else, as an example. But they run across somebody who's kind of set in their ways. So how does somebody break through to someone in that situation?
Okay. I'm not sure this is going to answer the question the way you want me to answer it, but here's how I deal with clients, whether they're whether they're old and cranky or not. If I need to determine what problem of theirs I'm solving, and if I'm doing a good job solving that. And if I'm not, then I either walk away or I dig deeper into who these people are, so I know what their real problems are. And if you're dealing with a cranky old man, probably the chances are you're going to have to, and you're trying to sell him gutter guards, out of the pickup truck that's pulled into his driveway and taping a card to his mailbox. It's probably not going to work, and you probably should just walk away and decide that you need to do something else. But if you think that there is a possibility that this person would be a customer of yours, you need to understand what motivates them. What's their deep need? If they're anxious about salesmen who knock on their door at 3:00 in the afternoon, then either you need to come up with a strategy to make them understand that you're just there to offer them an idea that might be helpful to them. If not, well then, and Dan, I see you do this all the time. So you figure that somebody's not your customer, then you wish them well and you walk away. Say, hey, thanks a lot, I appreciate it, but obviously this isn't, we're not going to work this, so let's part friends. And I think it's a number, like you say, it's a numbers game. You just have to say it's just not going to work.
And I agree. And sometimes you just can't do it. But what if and we're in a prospecting situation, not in sales. What if their gutters are hanging off their house? Mm-hmm. They need gutters. Sure. And it's a deal waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. It's just that you can tell there's fear of being taken advantage of. I mean, you even mentioned, that somebody came with, a crusty car. So let's say, for instance, that same person who's still afraid of everything, but they called the other company. Like you called me, mm-hmm. To come. So I didn't knock on your door. You called me, mm-hmm. and I have a little in. How can, in that situation, a salesperson alleviate that fear from you?
Well, they have to develop a trust. That's my phone. And I'm not quite sure how to do that. I'm not necessarily the greatest salesperson in the world. And
well, look at it from the other way. How do you buy? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. How do you're the perfect customer that salespeople have challenges with.
Yeah.
You're someone who has seen it all, kind of knows it. You've gotten gutters and roofs before. You've been in the whole process. This isn't your first go round. Yeah. And somebody wants. So what do you see in a salesperson that says, "Hey, all right, let's go ahead and do this," or is it totally the need?
Well, I can talk to you about when we bought our house. The guy that helped us, the guy that we finally bought the house from, was very low pressure. Was there to offer us any advice we needed, even if it wasn't to buy the particular house he wanted to sell us. I didn't feel like he was trying to manipulate me. I guess it's a matter of feeling like you're dealing with an honest person who's shooting straight with you.
That's a good answer. So that's exactly what salespeople need to do. You didn't mention anything about the right offer or the right time or anything like that. You just made that person, you liked that person.
Right. And it's what you say all the time. It's trust, it's likableness. It's like, do I feel good about this guy? It's a gut issue, I think, to a certain extent. Yeah, and then there's a logical issue that you say, well, this was 10% more than the other. Is that something that we're willing to pay to be dealing with somebody that we really like?
Yeah, but at that point, you already bought.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, there's logic involved, but initially, for me, for most things, it's a gut issue.
Right, and so that's even right now. What makes you like one person over another?
Well, I can't use some of those words, but I don't know. I don't know. Like I say, it's a gut issue.
Is it?
It's unquantifiable to a certain extent. I feel like they're being honest with me. I feel like they're not manipulating me. What's going to get you into this car today? I feel like, I don't BS me. Basically, I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well,
the first time I bought a new car.
Uh-huh.
I went into a dealer over in Gwinnett, and he totally raped me. Totally. I was the most naive person in the world. He totally took advantage of me. I was paying an unbelievable interest rate. I was making unbelievable payments per month. And that pretty much has set my life right there. So every time Shirley, my wife, Shirley, reminds me when we go to look at a car, she says, don't be an a-hole. Don't do that, because you will. And it's like a cat, that you see the hair on their back rise up.
Yep.
The salesman comes over to me. If the first word out of his mouth is not something that I feel is totally honest and non-pressure, the hair just rises right up, and I'm like in my total defense mode. And then that's when I become the a-hole.
That's exactly where I want to get to, because
me being that way.
Well, no, most people, if you've been burned once, and everybody's been burned once, you can go two different ways. You could say, got it, I'll learn from that. Or you could just get, like you said, your hair on the back of your neck go up, and you're just like in a battle each time, and you avoid that whole battle thing and get in there.
You really have to guard against that to a certain extent.
Right, and here's the thing.
But I think it is also a very valid defense mechanism.
Right. And it's also the death of salespeople, because salespeople can get that way too.
Mm-hmm.
They run into people that, because they looked like somebody that did something to them, 15 years ago. All of a sudden you start presuming that the person's going to be exactly like that with all that stuff. It's it really, not only does it ruin many sales, it ruins careers. It makes it not fun. Like, you don't think it's fun to buy a car.
I do now.
Oh, okay.
It's a game.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I have a strategy. You want to hear my car buying strategy?
More than anything.
Yeah, but this is when they had things called newspapers, and in the Saturday newspaper they would have all the car ads. So I would decide which car I wanted. I would find the lowest price in any of the ads, and I'd walk into Marietta Toyota and I'd say, I want this car for that price. Can you do it? And if the answer is no, I'd say thanks. And I'd leave. So
yeah. Well, you can do that now with the internet too. I want this car at that price. Can you do it? Yeah, and you can call and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Getting back to the sales people, and I think this is true for customers too. There's all sorts of privileges, that's going on in society today. I think they're all bunk, but for this one, it's the likability privilege. When you're likable, you get things. When you're likable, and if you act like, people are happy to give you deals. They're happy to give you food.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
They're happy to. It's just that simple, and it works on both sides of the table. If you're likable and nice, and they want to do business with you, and if you're the salesperson, you want to do business with that person. You're willing to do what it takes to get that person. So I say this because people can get grumpy. Salespeople can get grumpy. I just want to let everybody know there's nobody, you can't out grump somebody into friendship. I mean, even grumpy people don't like grumpy people. You're not going to win somebody over with your grumpism.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it.
You just blew my whole life strategy, DJ.
Right. Well, that's what I brought. It's
so
a
that
lesson.
Explains a lot to me,
People could learn from your mistakes. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to, he says that grumpy. He's actually the most giving person I've ever met. He would give you the shirt off his back and the last dime in his pocket. And I think he has about a dime. But he would give it to you. As long as you feed him once in a while.
Yeah.
He's really, really a nice guy. But
hey, I have a funny story to tell you about coming over here. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything except old people versus young people. But I went into a Dunkin' Donuts on the way here to get my coffee. Get my coffee. And there's a kid behind the counter. He's a nice kid. He was waiting on the person front, and then he helped me. And I said, I want a coffee, and he said, do you want any donuts? And he's got this rack of donuts, these 1,000 donuts behind him. And I said, no, if I have a donut, this is how I got this. And I rub my stomach, which is rather sizable these days. And I said, no, this is how I got this. I better stay away from the donuts. He said, you don't need to do it. Don't worry about that. He says, I eat donuts all the time. Well, this kid, he's like a kid, right? And he's skinny as a rail. And I said, well, you can do that because you're a kid. He says, well, I'm getting old. He says, I'm getting older. I'm thinking I'm getting older. I said, well, I said, how old are you? 26. I said, I'm 3 times older than you. 3 times older. So, and he seriously was contemplating the idea that he's getting old. Things aren't working the way they used to work. And
he was trying to sell you donuts.
Yeah. Did you get a donut?
He was like, I'm gonna like say something to get this guy going a little bit and maybe get some energy going, and he's just gonna pick out the glazed cruller or whatever, the bear claw.
Yeah.
You ever have a bear claw?
I love that over there afterwards. It was just it's just struck me so funny the perspective that people have about things like that.
Oh yeah.
That was his idea of getting old, 26. And
well, I was impressed that he tried to upsell you. I went into McDonald's the other day.
Right.
And I look forward to, do you want fries with that? Nothing. I said, I actually said, aren't you going to ask if I want fries with that? She looked around like, all right, you want fries with that? I said, no, I don't want it. But
I wanted you to ask me so I can tell you no.
I do a whole like a series of talks on, do you want fries with that? It's such
let me ask you a question. As the consumer, do you find it insulting that somebody would say to you, obviously you don't understand what you really want. Let me suggest you get fries with that. Or do you think that they should say, he obviously knows that he wants a burger, but no fries, because the fries are up on the board right there. He would ask for them if he wanted them, but I'll ask him anyway, because he obviously looks too stupid to figure this out.
You see, isn't that great? So that is the perspective of a curmudgeon. I mean, now I'm not saying you are.
He's
but
assuming this person thinks I'm stupid.
Actually, and of course, the way that I go, let me tell you something. If Apple didn't create this thing, I probably wouldn't have it. I didn't wake up one day and say, man, I need this thing. And with the fries, if you want fries with that, maybe they have a special deal on it. They want to give me something. I think it's great. I want to be, what? Actually,
you want to see the sales technique.
I want to be told. I don't want. It drives me crazy. These new places have like the menu keeps changing. Yeah. Like you can't even lock onto it. Yeah. And so I'd much rather someone say, I tell you what, this is the best thing to get here. What? Do you ever do that in a restaurant? I bet you don't. I'm a fan of which one? I'm between 2 things on the menu. Do you ever ask the waiter or waitress, what should I get?
I asked them what they would get.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing on the menu?
Yeah, what's the thing that you'll eat here? But here's the thing, DJ, and I heard this from someone on a podcast, a chef or something like that. He says the stuff on the menu, the specials and the stuff that they come and tell you are the specials, that's totally set up. That's their profit center for the night. They've got 45 burgers in the back, exactly like the one that's the special of the night, and they're ready to go for you. They're going to make twice as much money from them. So anytime you see those specials on a menu, this is today's special or this is this special. I mean, they may be good. But bear in mind, they're specials because that's their profit center for the night. So
yes, and don't you love that? They're making something special for you. When I was a kid, I had a
no, I don't love that.
He doesn't like
I love that. That's business. That's creative marketing. They had some extra stuff in the back, and so they mashed it up into something else.
Okay.
They took
you use the word creative marketing. you could also say that's manipulative.
Okay,
It's also been done a
it's
million
not
times.
creative
Do something
marketing.
different.
It's creative. It's
That's what creative
selling.
marketing is not
It's
doing a Xerox copy of a fax copy of a handwritten napkin that somebody else is doing.
Mhm.
Creative marketing is to do something special, actually,
Right.
yes,
not
and
doing
make
what every
something.
other restaurant's doing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and make something.
that's true, but just bear in mind when you do go into a restaurant and you look at the special and you say, "Hey, that looks pretty good," it's only $8.99 or whatever it is. Bear in mind that that's their profit center for the night, and
Sure.
and that it may be perfectly delicious and wonderful, and maybe the fact that they made 50 of them in the back and they're sitting there means that they've made them really good and really fresh. I don't know, but
Yeah, it's almost
know,
like instead of asking what their specials are, you should say, "So what's the thing you guys are really pushing tonight so you can make more money?"
yeah, right.
Well, it's not just
Let's
more
just be
money.
honest. you
Many
know?
times,
Yeah,
many
let's
times it's
talk
not
here.
to make more money; it's to save from losing money. I mean, that's what they. If you
I
if
get
you
It's an
if you
optimistic way of
if you
looking. I
have
mean, it's
if your supplier came to you with a deal on
Mhm.
prime rib,
Mhm.
and so
Right.
but you have to buy a lot of it, baby,
Mhm.
you got to sell that prime rib.
Yeah.
Make it sell. So you don't
Well,
want you don't want it to
considering
go
the way
bad.
the restaurant business is these days, you can't be too critical of these people. They're just trying to stay above water. They're all sucking wind to a certain extent. So,
When I was
but
a
it's nice
kid,
to know that you're being dealt with.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay. Well, you're wrong,
I
obviously.
don't think I'm being dealt with. I think I'm gladly working in the beautiful capitalistic American society.
Let me
When
ask you
I
a
was a
question.
kid, I found a box of old sneakers that the shoe store had thrown out. They were probably an off size or something. But I took the box and I sold. Everyone in my class was wearing the same sneakers. They may have been a little too big or a little small at the time. It wasn't uncommon to stuff, tissues at the front until your feet grow into the shoes. So I sold them to everybody there. Was that manipulative? Did I hurt anybody? I didn't do anything. I gave them shoes for $1. And so when if they would say, "Oh, yeah, this is just some deal. You just found these on the side of the road," I said, "Absolutely, I found them on the side of the road." But that doesn't change the fact that you just got sneakers for $1.
Mhm.
It's a good deal for you.
ill-fitting sneakers that you were pushing on them.
Yes,
No.
that's right. But I
Let me
mean,
ask let me ask you
there
a
is a
question.
because I have family members who are just like you. Or not, I shouldn't say just like you. I have family members who are
I feel like I'm being sideways insulted here about
no,
every
you're
5
not. I'm
minutes.
saying everything out
You're our
of love.
guest, Tom. Tom has a question for you,
We're
Dan.
going to talk about curmudgeons, but it's not you. It's not you. We're not saying
The
that
name
you
of the
are
show,
curmudgeon. But
you're a
you seem to
tough,
have an awful lot of knowledge about curmudgeons, don't you, Mr. Nixon?
you're a
Oh,
tough
yes, I
sell.
do.
You're a tough sell.
Not
And so I
necessarily.
think that's helpful for people to learn.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
Let me ask you a question. When you go into a nice restaurant, don't you just love it when the waiter comes over to you and tells you that incredible ingredient list of their lamb chops or something like that, and how it's made with fresh mint from Arcadia Mountain in Maine that's been picked yesterday morning and flown into Atlanta just for your lamb chop? Don't you love hearing all that stuff? That's
Well,
great stuff.
I have a double answer for that. The answer is that's my favorite part of the thing.
Oh, I love
I
that. Yeah.
I love when they do and then flourish because I really listen and it's like I act as if they're on stage. This is their moment.
Right.
They
Right.
learned it just an hour before.
Yeah, I
and
know.
it's
Yeah.
true. And they
Yeah.
practice in the kitchen. It's really it's a
Wow.
big part of the day. I like that. What I don't like is being served. I don't like people serving me. I'm uncomfortable with people serving me.
How do you get the food to your table then?
I deal with it. It's not like but I rarely go to, when they clean up the crumbs before you get up and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
I just
They
feel
have a
like
little card that they sweep up the crumbs with.
yeah. So I've always been more comfortable with the guy washing the windows on the skyscraper than the people in the corner office of the skyscraper. I'm much more comfortable No, I deal with with everybody, but I never leave a building without talking to the landscaper. Those are my peeps.
Wait a second, I'm going to write that down.
They're doing that stuff. But anyhow, but I mean, it's very important, because these attitudes, when you're meeting people and you're doing this stuff, the thing is, someone, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is you're really not a hard sell, Tom Nixon, and most print. I think you put on this front because you're a marshmallow.
Now he's
on the
calling me a
inside.
fraud.
And if somebody, do you give money to people on the side of the street?
Yeah.
Somebody's begging.
They need it more than I do, even if they're going out and buying.
You see, that's still. You know what I do? I keep a box of cookies in the car.
You do your cookie thing. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I keep a box of cookies in the car, and I always dish out the cookies whenever they ask me for anything.
Here's a little thing. You guys may remember Neil Bortz, the original curmudgeon in Atlanta years ago. Well,
he's a lovable guy too.
Yeah, well, he used to buy cheap umbrellas, many of them, and have them in his car. And when he'd see somebody at the side of the road who obviously needed an umbrella during the rain, he would stop, pull over, and give them an umbrella. And I thought, well, he could have given him a ride, but he gave the umbrella, so that's a plus. That's a plus.
Yeah.
So,
anyway. I may have told you the story. There was a guy at a Starbucks I used to hang out with, and he was obviously had some mental illnesses. A young guy, smelled horrible, and he would just come and hang out there and get whatever anybody would give him. And so one day I just took him. I said, "Hey, come here, you got to take a shower." And I took him to we went to Burger King or something. We got something there, and then I took him to a Motel 6, and I got him a room for the night. And then and he went in there, and who knows what happened, but we parted ways. I saw him 1 or 2 times after that. I don't think he remembered me. But about a month later, I get a frantic call from my wife going through the bills. What were you doing at a Motel 6 on Thursday afternoon?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's something you gotta deal with. But I actually take these guys, instead of giving them money for that, I'll take them to eat.
Yeah.
And try to hear their story. And I remember when I was on my hitchhiking trip, I was hanging around with there was like a little, I remember in Colorado especially, there was a little kind of like train of people. You would go to one church like for breakfast, and then everybody like cattle would walk to this other place for lunch, and then it was like everybody knew the system. And most of the people there it just had mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. It's really sad. I didn't know what I could do. I couldn't really help them.
Yeah. No, that's
what? What'd you say? Okay. All right. But you see,
way to bring this podcast to a screeching halt, Dan, with and bumming everybody
Dan,
out.
That wasn't a showstopper, but it sure slowed it down pretty good.
All right. Well, listen, I got no problem with bringing it up. But we have Tom Nixon and his energy. So Tom Nixon, if you were gonna, how about this? If you were gonna start,
did you see that gesture I made off camera?
If you were gonna start right now in the business of I guess graphic design. What do you call it now? I guess it's digital marketing now, isn't it?
It's graphic design.
Okay, graphic design. What would you do? Would you work for a company? Would you go out on your own? How do you get started right now?
For me, or how would I advise?
You're talking to a 26-year-old who thinks he's getting old working at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so what I would say to him is I'd say get as good as you can possibly get. Go work for somebody, because they will totally take advantage of you, and they'll pretty much run you over the coals. But you will learn all the things that I didn't learn, or all the things that I had to learn on my own, because I never worked for anybody else except myself. So there was lots of gaps in my knowledge about production, especially about how does something get on a printing press, and what happens when you can't match the colors, and what happens when you build a design that actually cannot be printed. There are lots of designs that cannot be printed on a printing press. There's just technical issues that prohibit that. So, and that was in that day. That was 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. But there are things like that today too. Go work for somebody else, fill in those gaps, get really, really, really good. Totally dedicate yourself to helping them make a success of their business and making money. And then when it's time for you to go out on your own, if that's what you want to do, they will help you, or at least they won't kick you out. But the other thing you have to realize, and DJ, you've worked for yourself all your life. I've worked for myself all your life. Neither of my daughters work for themselves. They're both incredibly accomplished people, but they like the idea of hitting the clock at 5 o'clock and going home and being a real live person. So be aware that if you are going to work for yourself, if you are going to have your own business, there's going to be some serious sacrifices you're going to have to make. They're not necessarily bad sacrifices, but it's not all, when there's money in the bank, things are great. When there's no money in the bank, things are not so great. And there's only one person you can blame or praise, the guy in the mirror. So
that's absolutely right. Yeah. So listen, if I didn't bring down the crowd, so did you. Just tell them it's terrible. There you go.
So don't even think about it. No, actually, I don't know. If somebody wants to be a graphic designer, I don't know what the opportunities are today. I know what the opportunities are for me because I have a very narrow niche. But somebody starting out, I don't know if this is a great career choice or not. I do know everybody coming out of college wants to be a graphic designer. Everybody.
Everybody thinks they can do it. Everybody thinks they can be a photographer.
You say, what are you going to do? What are you studying at school? Oh, marketing. No, it's graphic design. Everybody's a graphic design. So bear in mind, you're going to have some serious competition.
Well, that's good. But I think you're right about getting a job with somebody and using it because, you get them to pay you for your education.
Yeah.
Just don't look at people always say, listen, you got to find your career. No, get a job. Just get a job. Use them for everything you can get.
And knowledge-wise, switch jobs around. You may have to say this is pretty much a dead end. I wanted to go farther and move to a different company. But working for somebody for the first 5 years of your career, 10 years of your career is not a bad idea.
5-10 years. You say that to that 26-year-old. He thinks, that's a life.
Yeah.
Half his
I'm
life.
going to be dead then.
It's a prison sentence. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
I was thinking 5 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Everything's much quicker right now. All right, cool. Well, so once again, you were able to liven up the show here. Chris Stone and I were always bringing it down, and thank goodness for the guests of our lifetime.
Go away.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Go away.
That's it. Okay. He's walking off the stage virtually.
You're blowing smoke up my skirt here.
No, I want to thank you for anybody out there. You got to understand the people, and this is the main point of this whole thing. The people that you think are most difficult to sell to are generally the easiest and the nicest experience that you build the longest relationships. When you see a no soliciting sign on the door, you need to think that is a welcome sign. Bring it on in. Those are people that they get so few people walking in because people walk away because of the no soliciting sign that they're craving to see human interaction in a friendly way. The only thing better than a no solicitation sign is if you see a keep out sign. If it was like keep out, that person you just need to expect. You go in your danger, beware, stay away. You got to go there, say hello with a big smile, and expect to get hot cocoa with little marshmallows in it. Because it's that easy.
I think you would agree with this. If you are a salesman and you think of yourself as a salesman, I think that's a mindset that can be a little bit poisoning. Think of yourself as a person who builds relationships with people. You happen to represent a company, or you happen to represent a product. But if you're in the business of building relationships with people, I think the sales are going to come much more naturally.
Boom.
And that works with anybody that you meet.
That's life, right? Life on the big planet here.
That's it. Well,
Yeah.
I think you're awesome. Thanks for coming on. I'm sorry for the sound and the problem here, Chris Stone. But
Yeah, you know what? June Klein hung out this whole time. So
is she here this whole time? June Klein.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's a
geez, I
huge.
should have said that about her.
Your biggest fan ever,
Hey,
and
June.
apparently
She's awesome.
She is awesome.
June Klein.
I haven't seen her in a while. Maybe I'll see her maybe tomorrow night at Rich Hart's place. Are you going to be at Rich Hart's?
Oh yeah, Rich Hart's having a party tomorrow night. Anybody wants to be around at Rich Hart Global?
Yeah. Atlanta, Georgia. Come out to Rich Hart
Georgia.
Global.
Come on down.
Free
It's a
food.
great screen to have. Chris Stone, thank you again. Once again, the world's best producer. And the world started here, but now he's going worldwide on Podfest and what's the other thing? Agora products.
Agora Pulse.
Agora Pulse and everything.
Marketing
He's really
rock stars.
as good as they get. He's the chart topper in any chart that
I'm
he's
virtually walking off the stage.
Okay. I think you're awesome. June Klein, the only thing better than Tom Nixon is you. So I wish nothing but good things to happen to you all for the rest of your lives. Eat well, live long, and prosper. Let's go get them today.
Go get them.